Hello and welcome to BD TV, episode 5. You're one of hundreds of people around the globe who have signed up to come along today and hear from senior members in business development and marketing about how they're navigating COVID and how we're coming out of it in a good way. The usual format is today we have a poll, which I'll share with you. We're also going to have a discussion for approximately 10 minutes and then go into a question and answer session. It's all been recorded and will be available on YouTube afterwards for anyone who'd like to see it there or who's missed it today. If you are watching it on YouTube, I'm afraid the poll, the mechanics of the poll doesn't work, so I will describe it as we go through today so that you can still hear what the results of the live session are. So I'm delighted today to welcome Amy Kingdon from Barclay Research Group. BRG is an expert services and advisory firm with 1,300 experts and professionals across the world. It's got economists, accountants, academics, and industry experts in 46 offices. Amy is the firm's strategic marketing director with primary responsibility for its global segment, which includes EMEA and Asia Pacific. I've worked with Amy for 12 years and I've always been impressed with how she can move from driving issues around global brand to thinking in pinpoint detail about how a lunchtime webinar is going to run and the impact that's going to have. Always doing so with a sense of humor and a speed of thought that I can only attempt to keep pace with. So I'm going to attempt to do that today. So Amy, may I welcome you in what I believe is a beautiful barn in Cambridgeshire. Welcome.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for having me. Yes, this is my barn that has become my work quarters over the past couple of months, and a wonderful refuge from what's going on in the rest of the house a lot of the time, with young children especially, and known kind of fondly now by some colleagues as the shed. But yes, it's kind of multi-purpose, but definitely the working space.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks for welcoming us to the shed quarters. A very easy question, or a big question to start with. How are things at BRG?
Yeah, good overall. I think it's certainly kind of positive. I think we have, and I'll answer the question on a couple of different levels. I think we've come together as people and human beings like never before, and that's across all aspects of the firm, geographically and across different practice areas. We're busy, if I think more locally, around the kind of EMEA region and Asia Pacific specifically. We're busy. We are fortunate that we span 3 kind of core areas of the firm, as many other firms do, with each with its own markets and also its own kind of challenges and sort of levels of opportunity at the moment across disputes and investigations, corporate finance, and advisory. And needless to say, they are having different experiences across each of those areas, but we're also able to, and I think this has increased over the past couple of months, to really think about how we can better go to market together and how we can serve our clients better across, a more kind of permeable sense of those different areas and where they start and begin. But having said that, corporate finance restructuring, as you'd imagine, incredibly busy. Disputes and investigations, litigation, arbitration. We have this sense, and I think this is something we're feeling very strongly locally of, busy now, but a lot of that was ongoing work. They tend to be long kind of matters and projects that we're involved in. And then this sense of, question of timing as to when inevitably this kind of onslaught, if you like, of disputes and investigations arising from the COVID situation are going to land. So that, there are some areas of that where, not as busy right now, but we're expecting a kind of a storm to hit. And in those sorts of areas, we're also learning a lot from our colleagues in Asia Pacific, for instance, where this isn't entirely new, and they're ahead of the curve in terms of how this starts to play out. And then in some of the more traditional advisory areas, where the spend, I suppose, on consulting firms like us is more discretionary, then clearly there is, if not a kind of total halt to some of that work, there's a sense that, not now, that it's not the priority right now, and things will come back on track a little further down the line. Yes. But most of our work is event driven, and obviously COVID is an unprecedented level of event. So, we have to say we're very fortunate that creates opportunities. From a marketing perspective, we are busier than ever, in that everybody has seen the kind of value and the need for content and for touch points with their clients, and that there was no kind of I expected there to be this pause and this lull where that demand really kind of geared up, and people wanted to engage with my team and our wider marketing team to kind of service some of that demand. And in fact, I don't think we had that kind of respite and pause for breath. It was, we need to be talking to our clients. We need to be doing this now. Our
Yes.
competitors are doing this too. We need to get out there, and so kind of ensued the heightened demand for things like obviously online seminars, webinars, and content generally.
Yes, and I've seen you do that at great speed and very successfully. The thing we've worked on together over 10 years plus has usually been helping professionals around that more human element, the personal chemistry bit. And I've been pleased to see over the last 3 months that rush to online and people doing it so well, that the transactional, the technical elements being covered so well there. Can we ever try and recreate though that personal rapport and chemistry in that sort of virtual world?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge now, and we're certainly trying to move into more of that I suppose area of work and effort in terms of what does that look like, especially now that we're all resigning ourselves to the fact that this is going to go on for a good while longer. So, and I think up until now, when I say that people are doing well and that people are quite content, they're working effectively remotely, I think that we don't know yet what that impact of being removed from that kind of social contact and that human contact will feel like, in weeks to come, if it doesn't feel like that already. And obviously from a business development and a client relationship perspective, that applies hugely. And it's not, we have lots of meetings and interactions, and we're collaborating with law firms who are our kind of closest clients a lot of the time to reach their end clients with content that we might collaborate on. And that's wonderful. And we're strengthening and kind of deepening relationships that way. And there are some social interactions, where we've run kind of quizzes, pizza nights, cocktail nights, particularly in the US actually, where they seem to be more progressive than we are in kind of getting over some of those inhibitions around how that might work online, and having kind of team on teams with clients and asking them to bring new people into those forums. But they do tend to originate with the people that you already know. Yes. and well, and so therefore you're kind of more relaxed in those sorts of settings. It's those that we don't know so well, and also a kind of related point is, how do you meet new people in this world, as you would in kind of drinks, kind of sideline conversations at a conference or a physical event. So yeah, we're trying to recreate, I think, a lot of the things that we're doing well internally, remotely, in terms of social interactions, the kinds that I've just described. But also, I think, looking to, like I say, collaborate with our peers, other advisors. So whether that's lawyers, whether it's, for us, if I think about the international arbitration space, perhaps funders, arbitrators and others, and to come together and create those kind of forums where, yes, we might be thinking about, how we develop content and reach end clients together, but also hopefully there is more of a human aspect to that, and we do that over time and kind of strengthen those relationships. But it's not easy. We haven't solved it yet, but certainly I think we're trying to move beyond the kind of technical delivering something to an audience into much more kind of human, softer, chemistry oriented interactions.
Yes, good. And another thing I've always been aware of with BRG is there's this tension, as there is in all professional firms, but there's a tension between the collective and the individual. Has that dynamic been affected by COVID at BRG, where you have a lot of individuals who are world-renowned experts and are in themselves drawing work and drawing reputation for the firm?
Yeah, I think there are areas where individuals are very strong in terms of their individual brand, as you say. They have their own kind of books of business, they have their own client relationships, and in many areas they're very busy. You know, if I think about kind of business insurance and kind of business interruption claims, very busy. They're out there, you know, delivering work for their clients, and it feels a little bit at kind of arm's length, because, you know, that's what they need to do right now, and they're doing that very individually. There are areas, and then there are areas where, you know, people aren't as busy now, and kind of, you know, they feel the need to perhaps collaborate a little bit more with others, more than they would have otherwise. So, you know, how can I benefit from the expertise of my industry counterpart over here, to deliver something richer with my, I don't know, real estate valuation expertise as well. And so the fact that those people are having to think a little bit more laterally around, you know, what can I build here in terms of a new proposition or a new way of packaging it up? How can I strengthen it by working with others? I think that has made them more collaborative. And so, yeah, and I'm seeing that a lot locally and across the rest of the firm. I'd say from a marketing perspective, I've had to kind of, I don't know whether it's pride as much, but I've had to, I was going to say swallow my pride as a marketing expert and professional, and basically let go of a lot of what normally would be funneled through the marketing function.
Yes.
And let people get on with it themselves, and then add much more of my weight, if you like, and the team's kind of resources and expertise behind more of the brand piece, because everybody needs to be out there and everybody needs to be having those touch points with their clients. You know, we have very intellectual, capable people who can write well and should be talking to their clients about the content they're developing. So it's almost, you know, we can't afford to be involved in all of that. What we can do is think about the 2-3 things that are slightly longer term, that are more differentiated, that will see us through to the next kind of phase of COVID and everything that it means, and that we can get behind it as a brand. And I think, you know, that for me is the distinction, is, you know, empower people, kind of give them the confidence and the tools to do some of this stuff that we'd normally be involved in ourselves, themselves. And then let's think about at that next level what we can do to make BRG kind of useful and relevant going forward.
Yes, that leads very nicely actually to the poll. Thank you, Amy. Because one of the things I get the sense of from other firms, I haven't heard it specifically from you today, but I'm going to run the poll, and then I'm going to ask for your feedback on the results. So I've just launched the poll now, and it is essentially saying, do you think this exceptional year is going to cement or erode marketing's seat at the top table for most professional firms? Because what you just referenced, this point that, well, marketing cannot be involved in every major iteration, and BD cannot, we're not there physically, and we can't also be involved in the flow of engaging with all clients. So what I'm really interested to see is, is that going to make the professionals and experts that we work with think actually there's an erosion of the value of marketing right at the top, and it's more of that them and us separation? Is it going to make a change at all, or is it indeed going to have lead to significant change and recognition that the professionals, the technical professionals and experts, need marketing and BD expertise to help them navigate this new world and prosper beyond it? So the results for that are flooding in. I'm just going to give it another 10 seconds or so, and then I'm going to make it available for each of us watching now to see. And it is the closest we've had yet. Okay, 3/4 of people have just voted who are on live, and I'll end the poll now. And the results, which I'm just about to share with you, Amy, are showing that there's it's all towards the bottom end, top end if you're a marketing and BD person, saying that there's going to be 50% of people who responded said there's going to be an increased recognition of the strategic role, and almost 40% said they agreed and it's going to be significant. Is that, Amy, what may I ask for your immediate thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I totally agree with that. I think it's interesting if you just think about the kind of nuance of the question, because I think you cannot disagree with the fact that marketing is in such demand at the moment, as in firms need to market. And I think we have been producing and executing more than ever. I think the critical point is this opportunity around the seat at the top table. And I think that is dependent on our ability to kind of pivot and flex slightly into this, broader, longer term and kind of read across role. So I think about us facilitating some of the things that are outside of those kind of lines of business. So how can I make connections between what one expert MD partner is telling me over here and what I'm hearing or working on over there to create something richer? And I think also there's something about you helping people partner also externally. I think there's that point about how can we help other organizations, kind of third parties, relevant bodies in our industries and in the kind of legal world, for instance, be more effective in reaching their audiences. How can we add something to what they do? And I think that we absolutely play a part in that. But it's this kind of added value, and I've had to personally sort of, as I say, try to move beyond, okay, it's all about how much we can produce right now and how much we can get out, to thinking about, okay, if I've only got reduced time, particularly as many people do, with other demands on my time, including homeschooling and those sorts of things, then what are the 2 or 3 things that we can really focus on that are going to make a difference at that type of level? Yes. As well as facilitating the sorts of internal introductions a lot of the time within the firm that are going to help achieve some of that.
Yes, that joining the dots strategically. Yeah. That's it's good to hear, and it's good to hear. I hear people talking about collaboration each day, and it's good to hear it's more than just rhetoric at BRG. One thing we discussed on the last episode, and I see it in the legal press and the accounting press every day since, as it has been about the return to work and the changing nature of the workforce as we go back. How do you think, now this is one of the questions that has come in, how do you think this on-site, off-site makeup of your team will change as we go into 2021?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think, for good or for bad, I mean, mainly for good, we have demonstrated that we're all so productive remotely, which is fantastic. I think the bit that we're missing, and it kind of, it has a parallel with what we've talked about in terms of how you develop relationships with clients, in these sorts of times, is we don't really see the bit that's missing from not having that physical interaction with others, and it's the conversations that are unplanned. And particularly, I think, for marketing professionals and BD professionals, it's about that kind of lateral thinking, and that there's connecting the dots and creativity as well. If you don't have those kind of forums which are unplanned, without a strict agenda that we tend to be very good at keeping up with remotely, then you don't know what you don't know, and you don't have those kind of conversations that just, hang on a minute, there's that little kind of nugget in what somebody's just said there that could lead to something else, something much more spontaneous, something much less planned. And I think that there will always be a place for face-to-face forums and gatherings to facilitate some of that type of thinking and that type of creativity. So my concern is about, without the rush to get back, even when things feel safer and we have the kind of permission to be able to do that, what might we be losing in that sense? I think though, safety is paramount, obviously, and we are in a sector, an industry that doesn't totally depend on being face to face. And so it's going to take some time. I think, like others, we're planning to have parts of the kind of total workforce back at any one point. So in terms of us all being back together, it will be, I'm sure, be into next year.
Yeah. Okay.
So we will have to find a way of recreating some of those kind of forums.
And that need to be back in the office, how much of that's driven by genuine strategic concern, and how much by the fact you have 2 noisy children?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of push and pull, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
No,
I mean,
you don't have to answer that. I can relate all to that.
there's something though, just seriously related to that, which is about the space to properly kind of think, and not just, okay, I now have 2 hours or 3 hours, so what can I kind of wedge into that bit of my day? But actually having the space, again, it goes back to this kind of much more free form thinking and working, which comes from, you know, these are my 8-9 hours, whatever I'm working. I can think as well as do, rather than I can tick off the calls and the WebExes and the Zooms and whatever else. And I think, that would be a relief when that comes back. When that comes back.
When that comes back, good. Yes, I'm really surprised myself by how much I've missed some of that journey time, an element of it, the time on the train or tube or taxi, where you can. You're just in a fresh environment and you can think about what you've just experienced, what you've just heard, and where it's going. As we come to the end of this, I'm conscious of time, Amy. Just two more things I'd like to ask you. Professionally, what's been the biggest learning for you over the last 3 months?
Yeah, I think it relates back to the point about having to release yourself from the need to kind of think about your own value in terms of output or volume of output. And this isn't a new learning necessarily, or a new kind of need that I have, certainly, and I think many professionals have, particularly as an internal service within a service providing organization. You want to feel productive, but I think that the learning has been, more than ever, we have to prioritize. More than ever, we have to kind of equip other people to be effective, and we have to kind of find those sort of sweet spots in terms of really being able to make a difference, and being kind of bold about them, and trusting your instinct in terms of kind of sniffing out where those opportunities are and really running with those. So it's an ongoing. It's not that I've learned it and kind of achieved it. It's more an ongoing kind of checkpoint for me in my head.
Okay, thank you. I haven't quite articulated it as clearly, but I can absolutely see what you're saying about the outputs versus inputs, and also having to be sort of brutal and very direct about prioritization, and some things just have to drop. Finally, and I've asked this to each presenter each week, what have you missed most during lockdown?
So I was going to go into kind of too much detail probably about travel, actually, but what that gives me in terms of being able to gain this spontaneity and sort of observing other people's lives. And then I asked my colleague the same question, and he summed it up he gave a one-word answer, which I think sums up so many of the things that I kind of miss professionally and personally in the word excitement. And I think that it applies to the kind of, sometimes the lack of adrenaline in the work that we're doing now, because it feels different and it feels a bit less exposed, and a bit, it's one step removed from the people that it's kind of facing, even this kind of environment that we're in now, versus a kind of live event or a face-to-face event and so on. But also personally, it's the excitement that comes from not knowing what might happen next. And I feel like at the moment, we know what's happening next, because it's pretty much the same as what happened yesterday or the day before. So I definitely miss the excitement.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you very much. You've been a bit of light in what's been a week of mundane 9 to 6 and glass of wine in the evening. So thanks very much, Amy, for coming along today and for sharing those thoughts with us and bringing us up to speed on what's happening at BRG.
No, thank you.
Thank you. For anyone who's watching either live now or on YouTube, please come along same time next week, where we're going to have Dominic de Maravellas telling us about what's happening in the world of offshore finance. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have a good day. Bye-bye.